gonna do a little more Schadenfreude today concerning the New York gubernatorial election where Cuomo just destroyed Cynthia Nixon, and I guess I can't really be happy because I don't think that Andrew Cuomo, the people in New York are screwed. They're stuck with Andrew Cuomo apparently forever. But out of this embarrassing defeat, the Democrats so-called progressive wing, they're going to try to pretend that they're not sheepdogging people back into the party, that they really changed something. So they're going to go and pretend that because they dislodged a number of independent Democrat lawmakers, ones that kind of caucus with the Republicans, that makes this kind of a victory. Well, in some ways, maybe it does, but in reality, they're basically biting off a lot more than they can chew here, and also Cynthia Nixon, essentially she could have kept the fight going, and I'll tell you why. But let's keep watching here.
For the Democratic nomination may be over, but the fight for the soul of the Democratic Party is just beginning. Because before we can take our country back, we have to take our party back. We have to take it back from...
That's not true. You could just join the other party. Here, the fact is that there's actually people with the banner of the New York Working Families Party behind her. You can see where my cursor is. They're holding, it says here, the Working Families Party. They have that W logo. So they're basically saying, look at us. You're still nominated by us. She's still able to run in the New York elections. By the way, the New York elections, they have a fusion ballot. So a candidate can run under multiple lines on the ballot, and then it aggregates the total number of votes for each ballot line. So Cuomo, I think in the last election, he ran on 3 ballot lines, and they just added all the ballots together from the 3, and that was his vote total. But they don't want to do that because they don't have any balls. They don't have any fight in them. It's just a huge scam. It's basically it's a charade. Let's keep watching.
Corporate Democrats who are more interested in raising money from the rich than fighting for the poor.
Yeah, Cynthia didn't win, right? But Andrew Cuomo had significant ambitions in 2020 to run for president. I think she killed those ambitions, frankly.
There's no reason to think that anything that Cynthia Nixon did affected anything that Andrew Cuomo is going to be doing from now. He's basically, she's in the rearview mirror. Nobody's changed their mind about him because of her. You either hated Andrew Cuomo before the election, or you for some reason that nobody can explain, you voted for him. But I don't see why anybody would say that Cynthia Nixon affected his presidential ambitions at all. He destroyed her. It was a 2-to-1 massacre.
Because she brought up the fact that he's had multiple associates convicted of corruption. One of his closest associates.
People do that already.
He said he'd stop fracking, but is still allowing pipelines to be built through New York State. He isn't pushing for single payer, legalizing marijuana, all of these things, and he's a bully. And she's really...
Oh, because being a bully doesn't get you elected president ever. Yeah, that bully has never been elected president, according to TYT rebel headquarters.
Brought those issues to the national stage, even if she didn't win, even if Andrew Cuomo is so entrenched in the establishment, and even if a lot of Democrats were scared off by the fact that she doesn't have a lot of experience. There was still a victory to be had here, and I understand that it wasn't the actual victory.
Yeah, this is real unbiased reporting here.
Victory in the election, but when you're at a fundraising disadvantage, remember this, progressives, you're not going to win every battle because the ideas are what, yes, are resonating with people, but money still matters, and someone like Andrew Cuomo has a lot of money.
Well, I think what she did was
Yeah, these people, they're talking about, oh yeah, I'm going to go back to working at the GAP. Oh yeah, I'm going to go back to working at the juice bar by, in Park Slope or whatever the hell these dumb hipsters do. That's basically. I will say though that Emma looks a lot hotter because she's tanned now. She was really pale last year, especially during the winter, obviously.
Extraordinary in that she put out a progressive agenda in a way that a lot of people are starting to hear about it. And she's a part of a movement that I think is going to hopefully move the country in a better direction.
Issues that the governor wouldn't normally speak about, Cynthia really brought it home and make people aware of them on a national level.
And now people are going to forget about him again.
Right? And she brought a progressive message actually out.
In January, I announced my run for lieutenant governor.
All the
I was
bullshit is
told
making
I was
sneeze.
crazy. I had no shot. 2 weeks ago, they had.
This is the idiot that got arrested, I think, earlier this year for blocking an ambulance during a Trump rally, anti-Trump rally. Sorry.
Me down by 22 points. We almost took it tonight. 610,000 people voted for me. The people in this room voted for me. From Brooklyn to Buffalo. This is not the end. This is the beginning.
Cynthia Nixon lost as expected. Jumaane Williams lost narrowly. Zephyr Teachout was the biggest surprise to me, and she lost. And it's really because Maloney, he split the upstate vote, and that's what ended up happening, which is what allowed Tish James to be victorious. Maloney is a congressman. He clearly does not want to represent his district, or for some reason he blew all of his money on this attorney general's race. And now you know what's going to happen? His district's probably going to go red again because he decided to.
So she's pissed off. She's bitching right now because this guy wanted to run for, and I don't like the guy anyway. I think his name is, it's not Patrick Mahoney, but I saw his name yesterday in connection to a different topic. So she's bitching about that guy, basically saying, well, I want to run for attorney general too. Keith Ellison did that, and this guy isn't even accused of beating anybody, any of his spouses. So, she should at least give him credit for that.
To run for attorney general and blow all his money here, and ended up splitting the vote, so Zephyr Teachout didn't get it. Everyone has the right to run for what they want to run for, but he was running simultaneously for his House seat and for attorney general. Seems a little suspect to me, and it's frustrating because no one deserved this more than Zephyr Teachout, in my view, one of the most brilliant progressives in the country.
I'm really proud.
Yeah, she's so brilliant. How come she can't win a single thing in the most progressive state in the fucking world? I guess. It's New York is kind of, it's a contest between obviously upstate New York is not the same thing, but you figure between New York, California, New Jersey, and Maryland, I think those are the four most democratically dominated states in the country. You figure she runs for Attorney General of New York, and she's run for governor before. She's run for all sorts of positions. She just loses every time, and loses in like embarrassing fashion every time.
That we ran without any corporate money. And we showed you can run without corporate PAC money and without LLC money, just like Cynthia showed, just like Jumaane showed.
Andrew Cuomo gets to go back to Albany most likely for 4 more years, but the state of play he's going to find himself in, the politics that are going to surround him are going to be totally different. There are 7 new members who were elected to the state Senate running on a bold and muscular progressive agenda, health care for all, tenants protections, protecting immigrants, all kinds of stuff that the IDC had been blocking. 7 new senators want to do. Meanwhile, by January, Cuomo's going to have to face his worst nightmare, which is the Democratic legislature.
So for those of you that don't know, the IDC was an independent group of Democrats called the Independent Democratic Conference.
So what they're doing, I don't know what that Jewish guy was doing there, because apparently there were some of my tribe that were dumb enough to vote for these idiots who can't win anything. So yeah, some of us aren't as smart as you think we are. But this they're trying to say, well, this breakaway faction of the Democrats, The saving grace is that they were defeated. Well, let me play on that for a second. They want to claim, a lot of people want to claim that there was mass voter suppression in New York State. But that, because they're unhappy, they're bitching, and maybe there was, okay? I'm not going to say that there wasn't, because I'm willing to hear the evidence, and you know, it's happened before in New York State, so I'm willing to hear that. But you can't claim that it disadvantaged your candidate, Cynthia Nixon, and then simultaneously say, well, also we were able to throw out 3 or 6, however many of these corrupt corporate Democrats. So then, therefore, with some of your candidates, the election fraud and the voter suppression didn't work, and then for the others it did. How does that work? Did they kind of do some sort of selective targeted assassination type voter suppression? Is that how it was?
They caucus with the Republicans in order to just have more power and more prestige. Andrew Cuomo allowed for them to be created because he wanted change to happen on his terms, which means very incrementally. So Republicans had way more power than they should have in the state government, because Andrew Cuomo just allowed for them to caucus with the Republicans, even though this is a heavily blue state. Now, Andrew Cuomo did get reelected, and he did disband the IDC after pressure from Cynthia Nixon. So that's the tangible results of her campaign. But also, the members of the IDC were just voted out on the state level to very, very progressive candidates.
In total, out of the 8 members of the IDC, we defeated 6 of them tonight, and additionally won 1 more insurgent progressive primary against Martin DeLon, not a member of the IDC, but another huge recipient of corporate and real estate money. What happened tonight in New York was a drastic sea change in where the center of gravity in Albany is going to be. A whole group of senators who had been empowering a big money agenda, a corporate agenda at the expense of working families, were defeated in an unprecedented sweep.
I don't know if you caught this Freudian slip during the debate where you said...
So here's Katie Halper, another idiot that is on TYT often.
We need a Republican state Senate. Big time Freudian slip. He meant Democratic, and the reason it's not is because he likes having the IDC, because I actually talked about this with Julia Salazar. She explained it really well. Maybe it's a no-brainer, but it's basically so that he can control the pace of change, and he can slow change, and then he...
What a shrill bitch.
He can take credit for change that's not even that big of a deal. Like we saw that with his free college tuition, which affects like 2% of students or something.
When we look back in time, we realize that the...
All right, that's enough of that. I would go. I don't have that much time today, but let's see.
Cynthia Nixon
TYT
or
itself.
any progressive, and I argued that a better progressive
Yeah,
than
Jimmy
Cynthia
Dore
Nixon should have
sitting at
challenged
the
Cuomo,
end.
but it doesn't
Not
matter.
very interested in
Cynthia
what's
Nixon
going on, I
running,
think.
getting all the attention
see.
for this race, helped these 8 IDC races so much, because people who are progressive, who ordinarily would not have voted had not she been on the top of the ticket, came out and voted, and when they voted for the party against the IDC incumbent. I think that's
absolutely.
an important thing. So the effect of Cynthia Nixon's candidacy is felt in those IDC losses.
So I just want to double down on that point because it's such a great point. So most of the people will understandably say tonight in the headlines and tomorrow, Cynthia Nixon with a disappointing loss. She lost by a wide margin. That's all true. And then they will do analysis of it. My guess is that the analysis will say, well, yeah, maybe the progressive movement is not as strong as they thought, and it wound up.
Maybe the prairies aren't as rich with grass as they were when my buffalo ancestors roamed them.
Up not getting the results they wanted. But listen to what Michael just said. If Cynthia Nixon hadn't run, if they hadn't run a strong progressive, that's why I'm a giant believer in primaries. First of all, Andrew Cuomo would not have ended the IDC in the first place.
Yeah.
If she entered the race, he immediately called for a lunch and said, IDC, you're not going to technically exist anymore, okay? And he disbanded them. But so many more people turned out to vote for Cynthia Nixon, but also voted for the progressives versus the IDC guys. And tonight, 6 out of the 8 IDC fake Democrats lost to young upstart progressives. And do they have Cynthia Nixon to thank for that? To some degree, yes.
Not to a huge degree, they have her to thank for it. I mean, an opposing candidacy to Cuomo from a
Look at
progressive
Jimmy just sitting
candidate,
there.
100% to thank for it, because those people would not have shown up
talk at all
to
during
vote
this
in an
segment?
Andrew Cuomo primary against nobody, where it was just presumed he would have probably run
I think it's just
unopposed,
these
right?
two
Or
clowns
against
that
somebody
don't
who would
like
not
him.
have been able to get as much excitement going. Because those voters came out and voted for these people, they changed the face of the entire state legislature, which is massively important. And so when I said, that I thought there were better people than Cynthia Nixon, I still believe that, and clearly there are, because she got trounced tonight. But what her candidacy did was change New York politics, because progressives came out and voted.
And so to buttress that point, all night we've been talking about how there's basically about 3 times.
So yeah, they're basically eating their humble pie right now in the wrong way. They're actually eating their their arrogance pie. If that's really what's going on. And then Katie Halper, who we saw earlier, she makes this stupid tweet. It says, okay guys, let's make a list of samples of the Cynthia effect. What issues did Cuomo change on as a result of Cynthia Nixon's platform statements and criticisms? So then they do all the reasons that Cuomo, who they know is a liar and they're still going to support, all these. This guy is finally honest. He says, none that will be policy. So, yeah, the truth was that he fought. Most of the campaign was just talking about Donald Trump. He didn't even mention Cynthia Nixon. Cuomo debasing himself like a dirty hippie by participating in a die-in, prompting this Daily Caller gem. How about if we ask why homeless women needlessly dying isn't a bigger feminist issue? So people are just trolling this stupid thread. Let's see if there's anything cool. Not one fucking thing. And this is from a person who says Fox News is. They have a Fox News logo with the Nazi Party symbol. And then then Katie gets all bent out of shape. Not sure if you're just a liar or it's just extremely stupid. Maybe you should get a clue. Pay for it if need be. You shouldn't be living your life without a brain. So she's so salty that she has to get some sort of sweet nectar of honey to soothe her wounds of backing just a total failure of a candidate. And people are barely even going along with it. So that was Katie Halper. Michael Tracy gives something a little more realistic. He's ex-TYT, got fired by them. Or I think I was either fired or just laid off for actually telling the truth and staying with his beliefs. Tracy says, aside from Trump, so this is one of the biggest Russia skeptics that was at TYT, and he's no longer there. I think I don't even remember what he's doing now. Let me see if it says in his handle. Yeah, he's just a freelancer now. He never answers my mail, and I send him real stories. I don't troll him. He says, aside from Trump, I've never seen a bigger discrepancy between my Twitter timeline, parentheses, overwhelming hatred of Cuomo, and an electoral outcome, overwhelming lopsided victory. Another reminder of how easily this platform distorts political perceptions. So this is true, and I think there is a case to be made that, yes, there was some voter suppression, and I'd like to hear some of the evidence of it. I bet that there are people that don't get their votes counted or they just get turned away at the polls. But people should be aware of what's really going on here. A lot of these Cynthia Nixon fans work themselves into a frenzy over a candidate who, even in some of the more rich areas rich in terms of the preponderance of people. So there are voter rich. Some of these areas of the state that are rich in progressive voters basically ignored this entire story and they ended up voting for Cuomo. I don't understand why. I think Andrew Cuomo is kind of a joke. I think I think the only explanation for that is that Cynthia Nixon was also a joke. Her candidacy was based on literally being a little more left than Andrew Cuomo. And Andrew Cuomo already is pretty far to the left. Andrew Cuomo, for those of you that don't remember, let me see here. So this was a story, I think it was either in 2017 or it was earlier this year. But so yeah, he unveiled a free college proposal. This was in it was March of 2017. So Andrew Cuomo, you could and you can criticize him all you want, and I think that this is a horrible idea. But he was one of the only state governors in the country to follow Bernie Sanders' call for free college. And he did it. And does he get any credit for that from progressive Americans? No, because in several other departments, he's just a complete embarrassment. And he is a corporate Democrat, and he is in the bag with big time Wall Street investors, etc. But in reality, people who are average voters, they don't really look for the entire laundry list of issues that Cynthia Nixon was pushing. Some of the issues, criminal justice reform, a lot of the voters support. Legalization of marijuana, yes. Not the public option, but universal health care, yes. A lot of people do support them. You're not going to find that everybody that goes out to vote agrees with every single issue that Cynthia Nixon proposes. So, I made fun of her a lot of times. I think still she did put her money where her mouth is and ran for office, which a lot of people don't do. A lot of people don't even try. A lot of people just run their mouths. You see George Clooney all over the place pretending that people should give a shit about his opinion. What does he do? He ends up leaving Italy because the migrants that he wanted to come into the country were basically wreaking havoc around his lakeside villa, and he didn't feel safe anymore. That's a celebrity that can't back up his rhetoric. And Cynthia Nixon at least tried, and she lost. And bye because it's over. And she could have kept the fight going using her Working Families Party, but even that, they can't make a stand. They literally have no fight in them. They're complete sheepdogs. That's it. Have a good weekend. And I think I'm going to release this for tomorrow night. I'll release it for tomorrow night. So I'll see you guys then. Please like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the new channel, Razor Ray Live Wounds, and of course comment when this video uploads.